Jonathan James Perry to come real quickly to introduce himself and the performers. Jonathan, if you would come and then tell us more about this drum group. I'm even learning the language about how to address them and the performance. So it's a real treat to have them here today. Jonathan, give them a big round of applause. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jonathan James Perry. Hello, my name is Jonathan James Perry, and I hail from the Aquinnah community of the Wampanoag Nation, located on Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. We don't call it Martha's Vineyard. We've actually, for many thousands of years, referred to it as Naope, but unfortunately, someone came sailing over the horizon and decided to name it after his daughter. And so from then on, people referred to it by its nickname, Martha's Vineyard. However, we still call it Naope, and we have always lived there. We've lived there since the Creator gave us that space to live on. We have lived there in the time where Moshep helped to shape the landscape there, and where his footsteps fell, the water came in. We watched that water rise and form the island out of hilltops. We watched as the glaciers receded, and we have lived, hunted whales, built our wikyu and our traditional homes and our ceremonial houses in that space for time immemorial. And it is our intent as Indigenous people from that place to continue to live there and to continue to hail from that space, to hand down to our future generations the inheritance of our lands that we have never given up, never lost, and never seceded to other nations for. We have always held that space, and it is my intent that I will hold it as best I can to my children take over in that space, and others do as well. And so I'm happy to be here today. I'm very proud and happy to hear of Curry College's efforts to change how they acknowledge this time and this place, and actually embrace Indigenous connectivity to this land. Because regardless of what structures are built here and what landscape changes and visitors come from other places here, Indigenous people have called this place, like many places, like my community's place, they've called it as home, or as their home, as their aki, the place that we live on. Because we as Indigenous people, we don't refer to the land as ours. We come from within it. I said, I come from Aquinnah. I come from within Aquinnah. In my language, I literally stated that I am part of Aquinnah. And I am nothing without that space. I don't really belong anywhere if I don't have a place that I am part of the environment, right? And so that is very much an Indigenous perspective on land. And so regardless of how many thousands of years go on from here, we will always be from that place, from this place, from places around here in the Northeast. And our ancestors will remain in the ground. We will join them, and we will be part of the rock, the trees, the land, the water, the air, and we will always be here, and we'll always be connected to here, and we will always call this place home. And so it's really important for folks as they come here to places like this, places of higher learning, and they realize that Indigenous connection and continuance in place, and that they acknowledge that ancestral tie, and they have respect for this place. Because even for a short time or a long time in this area here amongst our people, we request that folks think of their stewardship responsibilities in caretaking the water and the land as our ancestors have for many thousands of years. It's important that we look out for all living things here and not just ourselves, because ultimately we are just here for a short time, and we are supposed to leave it better than we found it, always, in every way. So that means planting, caring for, looking out for all our brothers and sisters in creation, and being humble, being respectful, and being acknowledging of important ceremony and important connection to Indigenous cultures. So it's that reason that we brought the drum here today. We were asked to come and sing for this and this important acknowledgement of this change, and ideally a better relationship and better outreach from the college in recruitment of Indigenous people, acknowledgement of Indigenous people, Indigenous professor efforts, right? It's really important for universities and colleges to be acknowledging of Indigenous cultures and to do recruitment amongst Native societies so that there are Native faces for some of our students to look at when they go for their either their undergrad or graduate level courses in various universities and colleges throughout. And so it's important to see that representation, not only just in land acknowledgements and in Indigenous Peoples Day acknowledgements, but also in the faculty and the makeup of universities, and to see those universities actively reach out into Indigenous communities and say, we also value your participation, because students bring as much to the universities as professors provide them to carry back to their communities. And so having that balance, having that outreach, having that relationship is very important. So I just wanted to say those words as a councilman for my tribal nation and as a representative of my people. But as far as the drum is concerned, we're the Turtle Island Singers, and we're actually made up of a number of singers from various Native communities. So we have Narragansett and Crow and Mashpee Wampanoag and Aquina Wampanoag singers, and so we're what you would call an intertribal singing group, and there are quite a few of those in the Northeast because the history was pretty long and pretty violent here, and so our tribal populations are not what they used to be here, as they're really not across the landscape, unfortunately. And so we find our relations beyond our traditional borders. And we did that prior to European colonization, but we definitely do it now where you see how the dense population of people coming to live amongst our folks and live on our lands, how that looks here. And so we do have to look out for one another and work together between the tribal nations, interact and go to each other's ceremonies and gatherings and sing together and represent together. So I would just want to say thank you, Katabatash, from myself, from our singers, for the opportunity to share our songs, and we hope that you have a wonderful Indigenous Peoples Day. And remember, every day is Indigenous Peoples Day.
Jonathan, you had a question? The question was, can you tell us what you are singing?
Absolutely. So we're singing, typically a lot of what we're going to be singing and what we have sung are powwow songs, and those are contemporary songs, a lot of them. Some of them are very old songs, but powwow culture is kind of by its very nature intertribal culture. It comes out of a number of different parts of traditional systems, so, and then has morphed over the years. So if you look at the drum, the big drum is a more recent style of drum for our people. A lot of hand drums, water drums, in this area water drums and rattles and rhythm sticks and things of that nature were more typical in our gatherings. But we've used the big drum in this area since really the 1930s or even earlier a bit. The Buffalo Bill Wild West shows that traveled through the area, for instance, were a big part of kind of forming the powwow culture. There's also the traditional gatherings that have gone on for thousands of years. So it's not really unusual for us to have Native people coming and traveling from various nations and sharing songs and styles and dances and traditions. And so this style of drum has kind of come up over the years and has traveled all across the continent, all across what we call Turtle Island. And so nowadays you'll hear us sing, like the last song that we sang was a double beat song from the Crow Nation. And so one of our singers is from that culture, that tradition. And so, we sang that song. We've sang some intertribal dance songs, which are appropriate songs for everyone of the various indigenous cultures to get up and dance their style. So it's kind of free dance, or it's more open. So if you have traditional styles of step or dance, if you're a man or a woman, or however you identify, you can go up and you can dance at that time your style. So we'll be singing a lot of different songs. We'll be singing a round dance song, but ultimately we have a buffalo skin drum that's two-sided, lashed together in kind of a traditional fashion with that hide around a wooden frame. And in our culture, that represents the grandfather. So whether you're talking about water drums out here in the east with the grandfather and grandmother drums, or whether you're talking about out west with the big style powwow drum and the kind of concept of grandfather, it has to do with that ancient aspect, that knowledge and that tradition, that structure, those teachings on how to carry your songs, how to carry yourself, and how to carry that instrument that connects the people, right? So when we hit the drum, that represents the heartbeat of the people. And so it unites, it brings people together. It's even well known scientifically that certain rhythms can actually get your heartbeat to change and follow that rhythm. And so this is very much a connecting device for us as a people. It brings people out, it makes people happy. Our songs are designed to bring people out to dance and to move and to feel that rhythm and to feel that beat and to come together as one.
Turtle Island Singers with drums. You're going to hear them a little later on. I'm Carol Copeland Thomas. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This day is here at Curry College, where they have officially changed to Indigenous Peoples Day. It was a whirlwind. Came together very quickly because of the support that we had received. I can't thank the Indigenous community enough. Denise Pruitt, who you will hear, Chief Ladybug, who you will hear a little bit later on. Matui Monroe, who is going around the state with her efforts to change to Indigenous Peoples Day. Jonathan James Perry, people here on campus, Bob Shea, who you're going to hear from next, Jeanette Bunton, so many people here on campus. Angela Cooper, who you'll hear from. It took a collective effort. The community came together, and as a result of it, we are now here. I am the Interim Chief Diversity Officer. I've been doing diversity for 35 years this month, have been in business that long, and serve as the Interim Chief Diversity Officer here at Curry College. Thank you. We're now going to have an Indigenous prayer by Laughing Eyes as part of the Mohawk tribe. Laughing Eyes.
Shagum, greetings. I'm Nishishwan Ahanu from the Akwesasne Mohawk tribe, upstate New York in Canada. The prayer that I'm going to say is a Mohawk prayer. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Great Spirit, creator of all things, human beings, trees, grass, berries, help us, be kind to us, let us be happy on earth, let us lead our children to a good and old age. These are people, give them good minds to love one another. O Great Spirit, be kind to us, give us these people the favor to see the green trees, green grass, flowers, berries, this next spring. So we all meet again, O Great Spirit, we ask of you. Aho.
Thank you for that beautiful prayer. Dr. Robert Shea is the Vice President and Interim Provost here at Curry College, a great supporter of all people, great supporter of the Indigenous community and doing wonderful things here on campus. Without further ado, we'd like to have greetings brought by Dr. Robert Shea.
I'm humbled to have this opportunity to extend to all of you, both our Curry College community and to our honored guests, a very warm welcome on this special occasion, the college's inaugural celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day. I extend this welcome on behalf of President Ken Quigley, who's unable to be with us today, and to my colleagues on the college's leadership team, who recently elected to rename the day and refocus our celebration. I also want to offer a special thanks to Carol Copeland-Thomas, the college's Chief Diversity Officer, for her leadership in making today possible. The celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day is broadly supported by the students, staff, and faculty who comprise this community. We're proud to join in a movement of growing recognition of the holiday, which now includes 14 states, 21 Massachusetts cities and towns, and more than half of the 93 colleges and universities across the Commonwealth. The holiday provides an opportunity to learn about the legacy and impact of colonialism. It also offers the chance to celebrate the rich cultures and contributions of the more than 600 Native nations in the U.S. and almost 7 million people who identify as Native American. As a learning community, we have a responsibility to teach our students about the histories of Indigenous people and Native nations, as well as the impact of colonialism. Further, we have a responsibility to represent in our curriculum the scholarship and artistic contributions of Native Americans. Today is a day to center such voices, to listen empathically, and to reflect on the lessons shared. In keeping with this spirit, I want to share a poem from Joy Harjo, the nation's first Native American poet laureate. Perhaps the world ends here. The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instructions on what it means to be human. We make men at it. We make women. At this table, we gossip, recall enemies and ghosts of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor falling down selves, and as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table. We have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table, we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at the kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating of the last sweet bite. Joy Harjo's beautiful words speak to universal themes about human experience, that events big and small, joyful and sorrowful, are imbued with meaning in the context of intimate relationships. They speak to the human need for connection. I welcome all of you to the table today, knowing that we will be better for our common experience.
Thank you, Bob. That was a great welcome. Thank you so much. Now we're going to have an Indigenous prayer by Ahanu, and he is part of the Cherokee tribe, brought up by, I believe, his grandma. Yes. Give him a hand.
My name is Ahanu. I'm Cherokee Indian. I'm 5 years old. I'm in kindergarten. I here represent North Carolina. All happy. All great spirit. Help me on. Sisters to shoot time. To rest. With the open eyes. My eyes beat. To remember the peace. The baby found is son. I hope I can make.
Ahanu. Let's give it up for Ahanu again. Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
I just wanted to get a little introduction of my 5-year-old grandson. So his name is Ahanu. That means he smiles, he laughs. And he was given that name by his great-grandmother because as a baby, he was just always smiling and always happy. So he is Ahanu. He smiles, he laughs.
Ahanu. Yes. And he's still smiling. That's beautiful. We're now going to have another selection from the Turtle Island Singers.
So we're going to do a round dance if folks want to dance and join hands in a circle. It's pretty straightforward, but it's a good way to link hearts and minds.
Now that's community. Give yourselves a big round of applause. All right. That was wonderful. We're now going to have the youth message. Once everybody gets seated and rested. By young Sophia Wiseowl. She's part of the Massachusetts tribe. I would be remiss if I did not recognize the fact that Curry College is actually on the land of the Massachusetts at Punkapong tribe. This is their land that we are on, and we're very grateful to be celebrating so many because of the land that they actually originated here in what we now know as the United States. So Sophia Wiseowl coming up. Give her a hand.
Begrüßt. My name is Sophia Wiseowl. I am 8 years old. I am in the 3rd grade. I am a Croatan and Massachusetts Indian. I love my culture and traditions. I am grateful to Curry College for acknowledging Indigenous People Day. I am the future and proud to carry my roots forward.
Sophia Wiseowl, give her a hand. That was wonderful. Train them young. Train them young. Yes. And I was so excited about Sophia's speech that I almost missed Whirling Fire, who's part of the Croatan tribe, and she is now going to give us a prayer. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Whirling Fire from the Croatan tribe. I have a Native American prayer. May we bow our heads. O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the winds, and whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I am small and weak. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made, and my eyes sharp and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so when life fades, as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. Aho.
Thank you so very much, Whirling Fire. Right. And now we will hear our last selection. They are going on to another activity, event for the day. Again, we are so thankful that they came here today. And without further ado, we'll have another selection by the Turtle Island Singers.
Hey,
information.
So in recognition of today, we are all children at heart, there is a traditional dance that the children all do at powwows, and it's called the candy dance. It is a dance of patience. So we start teaching them early to be patient with life, to be patient with life lessons. And so what we do is we put candy in a circle, and we ask all the children or the young at heart to dance around the candy. And then when the drum is playing, you dance. If it stops, you get to pick up the candy. But if the drums start again, you have to put it down and dance some more. Okay? Everybody can participate, although we call it a candy dance for children. Adults or young at heart adults are allowed. So you need to dance around, you need to listen, and be patient. When the drum plays, you dance. When the drum stops, you pick up the candy. But if the drum starts again, what do? You put it back down and you dance some more. And you'll do this for as long as they do this. Okay? So can I have everyone who's young or young at heart to make a circle around the candy, and make it a wide circle. You don't want to step on the candy. But don't forget, you dance, you pick up the candy, but if it starts again, you put it back down. But in the end, your patience will pay off. Okay? Your patience will pay off. Okay, so let's have everybody come to the circle, young and young at heart.
Take them both.
Oh, thank
You
you.
may as well.
And that's a way to have an Indigenous Day celebration. Right. Get the rest of the candy. And for those, I know that our friends are going to do, they have to move on. And we'll make sure that they get passes. And all of you invited to be our lunch guests. Make sure that Jeanette Bunton has a black hat on. She has all the passes. So make sure you get a pass from her. The food is delicious in our cafeteria. So when our program concludes, we'll all have lunch, but I know that some have to move on, including our Turtle Island singers. Give them another big round of applause. Woo-hoo! Yes. That was fabulous. Now we're going to have a message of yesteryear. We've had fun. We're celebrating. We're so happy that Curry College has made this name change, but we want to reflect. And we're going to reflect from the instructional technology assistant here at Curry College and our on-campus leading expert historian about the indigenous communities. We'd like to bring up Dr. Angela Cooper. Angela.
Since, some of us have been greeting everyone in our indigenous language, I would like to as well. 안녕하세요. 나는 Angela Cooper입니다. Hello, I'm Angela Cooper. And thank you for attending the first Indigenous Peoples Day celebration at Curry College. Again, I'm Dr. Angela Cooper, and Carol asked me to speak today on the history of Indigenous people and the history of the holiday. She asked me to speak based on my expertise and knowledge. My expertise comes from my degrees, but my knowledge comes from collaborating and working with Indigenous peoples. So to give a little background, I am not Indigenous. I am mixed heritage Korean American. My dad is white and my mom is Korean. Since childhood, though, my father's family insisted that both of my great-grandmothers had Indigenous heritage. However, DNA results from both my father and brother show 0% Indigenous heritage. There is a possibility that these women were culturally Indigenous, but I'll have no way of knowing. I bring up this family myth as it's a myth that many white families share. It's a way to justify, consciously or unconsciously, to root oneself to the land. If we can say we're of this land, then we don't have to feel bad about taking the land from Indigenous folk. Other means are to believe in the mound builder myth, which is a false idea that ancestral white culture inhabited the Americas before Indigenous people, or a later myth of the manifest destiny, that U.S. Americans have the inherent right to occupy empty lands. The western United States were not empty. They were inhabited by the Oglala, Apache, Paiute, Tlingit, Pueblo, Diné, and so many others. The indigenous peoples of the Americas have inhabited this land since time immemorial. Their creation stories tell us how they came from the land. Many stories tell how they literally came up from the land through caves, mountains, or even underground. These stories are represented in their cave art, language, cultural practices, and iconography. The Oglala tell how their people emerged from Wing Cave, now a national park. This imagery is found on their parfleche boxes and moccasins as triangles representing the mountain. It is also represented by the use of teepees, where you emerge from a small hole, like the ancestors did through the small cave opening. This land we are standing on today is Massachusetts, meaning Great Hill. The Great Hill is just right down the road from us, now called Blue Hills Reservation. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts takes its name from the Massachusetts people, now known as the Massachusetts at Ponkapog, and Ponkapog now being called Canton. The Massachusetts, however, did not name the land after themselves. They named themselves after the land. because they are of and from this land. Unfortunately, I could not find a creation story. However, I'm sure that the Massachusetts creation story reveals their history to becoming or emerging from the Great Hill. More and more archaeological evidence supports these oral histories. As I stated previously, we see the creation stories in cave and rock art. We also find them in the archaeological record, aka excavations. The Choctaw and Chickasaw share similar creation stories that begin with their ancestors emerging from a cave near a mound, or other stories say from a mound. Their homelands are in the southeastern United States, such as Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. Recent excavations of a mound at Winterville Mounds in Mississippi showed features, which is stained soil in the ground, that seem to be steps or stairs emerging from the interior base of the mound leading out through the center of the mound. Again, evidence proving the validity of these oral histories. Additionally, archaeologists have used oral histories to find archaeological sites. Although you might think oral histories are not very reliable because they're told after generation after generation after generation, they're actually more reliable than written history. For example, burials of white and native soldiers were found at the Battle of Little Bighorn, not through the written record, which was wrong and they couldn't find anything, but through oral histories of those people whose ancestors were there. And to reiterate, oral histories are not just told to share knowledge, like where the burials are, but culture, language, art, and again, most importantly, to tell people who they are. Indigenous languages and culture are inextricably connected to the ancestral land. Language gives all of us a way to orient ourselves to the people, place, knowledge, culture, and traditions. Many Indigenous cultural knowledge is place-based, meaning their connection to their cultures is tied to being in a specific location to practice their ceremonies and traditions. When removed from the land, it isn't just loss of land or property that is devastating, but a loss of identity. Scholars call this placelessness, and it's the result of a division of culture from nature. Western cultures actually began this practice during the Enlightenment, but in retrospect, it doesn't seem very enlightened. To quote Dr. J. Johnson, this division leads to a loss of connection to our places, to our environment, our landscapes, and to the knowledge stored within these landscapes. With United States culture, placelessness is represented in those myths I mentioned earlier, the Mound Builder myth, Manifest Destiny, and others. Placelessness by way of immigration can result in the desire to assimilate with the dominant population through additional mythologizing. This mythologizing then becomes part of United States cultural memory. Cultural or collective memory is the way in which a society remembers people, events, places, and ideas. The remaining and celebrating of Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day is the beginning of this change in our nation's cultural memory. It changes the narrative of the holiday from celebrating a violent colonizer to celebrating the achievements and resiliency of Indigenous peoples. It's also a time to learn about the different and varied histories of Indigenous peoples in the Americas and around the world. At first, these changes may feel overwhelming and unnecessary, yet they have happened throughout U.S. history and continue to do so in different cultural changes and movements. Indeed, we've already experienced a change in this cultural memory with Columbus Day. Many people early on did celebrate Columbus's discovery of the Americas on the date of October 12th, but it was not enacted until a holiday until 1892. Did you know that President Harrison enacted Columbus Day as a one-time event due to the brutal lynching of 11 Italian immigrants? It wasn't enacted to memorialize the victims, but to placate outraged Italian Americans and the Italian government. Due to this discrimination and violence Italian Americans experienced, they felt a need to assimilate into white culture, U.S. white culture. One of the ways Italian Americans assimilated was through the lobbying of Columbus Day to be enacted as a holiday. And they also lobbied for it to be taught in schools. And they lobbied to not be designated as an evil alien to the country. Gradually, the holiday was used to learn about Columbus and to celebrate Italian heritage. It was only until 1971 that Columbus Day was enacted as a federal holiday. Through this change, Italian Americans were able to mythologize Columbus and therefore themselves as contributing to the development of the U.S. because of Columbus's discovery. This allowed them to remove some placelessness by positioning themselves into the myth of the founding of the U.S. and to assimilate into U.S. white culture. Italian Americans have no doubt contributed much to the development of the current United States, but they have not been on this land since the beginning. Those people are the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and they have experienced the most devastating impact of discovery. For them and others, today should not be a day to celebrate devastation. Indigenous people in the United States have rallied and protested for this change since the 1970s. They've protested against celebrating colonization, genocide, and removal of their histories from that story. Soon after Columbus Day was federally enacted, though, the United Nations proposed a change to Indigenous Peoples Day. No change was made in many states until 1989 in South Dakota, where they celebrate Native Americans Day on the second Monday of October. Finally, last year, President Biden signed a proclamation declaring Indigenous Peoples Day to be a national holiday. Often on this day, many institutions that celebrate this history start with a land acknowledgement. It's a way to honor those who were here since the beginning and those who still remain. When we give a land acknowledgement, it's not just to say who lived here, but to say who these people are. In spite of so much adversity, Indigenous peoples in the Americas have persevered through it all. They continue to maintain their culture, language, art, knowledge, and identity. They fight for and demonstrate their sovereignty, not just through the maintenance of their tribal government, but through perseverance of existence, through movements like No DAPL and Land Back, through repatriation efforts, through constructing their own institutions like cultural centers so that they can finally tell their own stories and their own histories, through media like movies and TV, through businesses like native-run restaurants, and so much more. So as you continue to celebrate this day, today and next year, and as Jonathan said, every day, find ways to learn more about Indigenous people and to celebrate their achievements and resiliency. Thank you.
Dr. Angela Cooper, please give her another big round of applause. That was excellent, excellent. There's a website that Matui Monroe is a part of. She's the lead organizer, and it's Indigenous Peoples Day, MA.org. I think I have that correct. Indigenous Peoples Day, MA.org. She is literally going around the state advocating for the name change with our state. And so I would encourage you to find out more about that. Certainly here at Curry, we're beginning this relationship. It's not the end. And so Dr. Cooper will be an excellent source in terms of learning more about the history and where we are going in terms of our community. So again, give her another big round of applause. Thank you. Now we would like to bring up the message of today, the present, and ultimately the future. I knew her as Dr. Denise Pruitt when she was at Middlesex Community College some years ago when I was doing some consulting there. And now she's moved on in a health capacity as a health practitioner, health expert at the Massachusetts Bay Community College. But now we know that she is part of the Croatan tribe, and her name, she's a beautiful grandmother, mother, etc. Get the flag. We don't want the flag to hit the ground at all. Get that. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. We'd like to bring up Chief Ladybug of the Croatan tribe. Chief Ladybug. And this day, again, is possible in large part because of all the phone calls and the text messages that went back and forth in the last 2+ weeks with this wonderful woman of action. So I want you to give her another big round of applause. Yes.
Thank you. So my name is Chief Ladybug, and I oversee Native Heritage New England. And this is an educational platform that is about tribal recognition and tribal reconciliation. As other speakers have said, we are now doing land acknowledgements, but land acknowledgements are not enough. We don't want to just talk about the land and who it belongs to. We want to do more. So at Mass Bay Community College, when they approached me about this, I said to them, that's great, but what else are you going to do? So we have set up a scholarship fund for Indigenous children to be able to come to Mass Bay Community College. And I would hope that all other colleges will follow in suit. It's not enough just to acknowledge the land. My tribal affiliations include Croatan, Massachusetts Ponkapog, and Potawatomi. Thank you, Curry College, for recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day. Today, we are claiming and taking back what colonizers took from us. They tried to kill us, assimilate us, imprison us, steal our land, and erase us. Today is a reminder that their efforts were unsuccessful. This day would not be possible without the collective efforts of those who came before us, those who were resistant and who were courageous, from our grandmothers to our grandfathers who maintained our language and our teachings, organizers and resistors, past and present. This day is about resistance and the continuation of love for the Indigenous people. We are warriors, protectors, and innovators. We will continue to fight for our liberation and sovereignty. Changing the name of this day is just the start of the fight. Land acknowledgement and getting Indigenous land back is another path forward for our people and our future. We extend gratitude to those who have paved the way, for those who stood in defense of our community. We hold this space for the ancestors and the relatives who sacrificed and endured and who have helped us to endure our survival today. And we celebrate our existence as warriors who are dismantling the colonizer systems one holiday at a time. It is our day to acknowledge our history, our struggles, and our victories, and the greatest strides that we have made in defense of our community. For far too long, Indigenous people have been minimized and made invisible. We are Indigenous 24/7, 365 days a year, and we will never stop. On Indigenous Peoples Day, we stand together as a statement, we are still here. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to take them now. Does anybody have any questions? Besides Ahanu. Sure. So, as you can see, I'm wearing a lot of red and black, although real ladybugs come in all different colors and they're genderless. I prefer the red and black because that's what I see when I look at a ladybug. So first off, and a person told me this as I was coming in, which I already knew, Massachusetts state bug is the ladybug. Did you know that? Yes, so we have a state bug and it is a ladybug. And so I am born 7 of 9 children. I'm born in between 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers. So my mother would say, pretty as a bug, but tough as a bug. So that's where I got ladybug. And what I'm wearing today is Eastern traditional regalia. It represents my ladybug. So I am wearing a skirt. We call these ribbon skirts, and you'll see a lot of people who wear them. We also wear ribbon dresses. I am also wearing a shawl or a cape. And this necklace was made for me from one of the elders of the tribe. It's completely beaded. And it took her about 5 years to make it. And every time I would see her at powwow, she would say, "I'm bringing you a necklace. But like the children in the candy dance, patience." And it was worth waiting for. So I wear this because I'm so proud that the 5 years I waited, and now I wear it to every place I go. My t-shirt also has the symbol of the ladybug on it. And usually I wear moccasins, but because of this pavement, I'm getting older in my feet, I need to wear protective shoes. This is a satchel, and whenever we go to praying Indian services, one of the things they say is bring your satchel, take what you want to take with you, other things you leave behind. So we always bring satchels to bring the memories back with us and keep them with us. Other questions? Well, sure. So I'm going to let my husband, Laughing Eyes, come up because he's also wearing ceremonial. And I am an Algonquin Indian, and I married an Iroquois Indian, which is sort of unheard of, but we did it. And we've managed to stay together for 21 years, irregardless to people thinking that Algonquins and Iroquois can't coexist, so we have. So I'm going to let him describe his regalia. And this is regalia, by the way. This is not a costume. This is not something anyone should wear outside of ceremony. We wear it when we're in ceremony, and it's regalia.
This is called a ribbon shirt, ribbons, and you can have all kinds of what our regalia is. It's a reflection of who we are. Some people, depending upon your clan or everything. This is a turtle, and I'm from the Turtle Clan, and I'm wearing a sash because I like wearing the sash. And then this is a Gustawa, and this was given to me. This was given to me by a friend. And this is I guess a woodman's tribe Gustaway. My normal Gustaway that I would wear, that's Mohawk, it's all made of feathers, and there's 3 feathers on the top that signify Mohawk. Other parts of the Iroquois, they have different amounts of feathers, or the angle that the feather in dictates their tribe.
And I brought Sophia Wiseauer up. Sophia, step forward. She is wearing what we call a jingle dress. And they have all of these little bells on it. And when she dances, we're hoping that our ancestors hear her all the way up in the heavens. And so when she dances, they jingle. As an adult, we wear 365 bells, but of course a child can only wear half of those. This dress weighs about 10 pounds, and she's such a trooper that she puts it on every time to come and have people see her dance. But it's a very heavy dress, and it has about 150 bells on it. So she is a jingle dancer. Make a joyful noise. Jump a little. There you go. Okay. And my grandson Ahanu is just wearing a traditional pants and shirt. Boys are really picky about what they'll wear, but he does have on a ceremonial head band that has a lot of information if you want to look at it closely. I also have my Croatan sister who is with me, who is wearing ceremonial boots and regalia that a lot of our elders in the tribe. I am known as an elder. This is an elder. My sister is an elder. My other sister is an elder. And so when you grow up in the tribe, you earn that right to be an elder, and we wear it proudly. My sister here is wearing a traditional regalia as well. It's known as a ribbon dress, and it can be in the colors that you like and represent you. She is also wearing a feathered headdress. And again, we wear regalia that represents us, and usually something that represents our tribe. This is our summer wear. We also have winter wear where we wear skins and fur. And again, we don't hurt animals. That's one of the misconceptions. When people have turkeys and eat things, we go and collect all the pieces left from what was used from when people have used it for meat. And then and meat for survival, not just to kill, we use all those pieces and wear it on our regalia. My husband has some bones here. He has a tooth here. Sometimes you'll see us with a wolf's claw, I'm sorry. Sometimes you'll see us with feet of animals. Sometimes you'll see us with pelts from animals. And again, we're given those things when meat is used for survival for people. So when you go off and buy meat, and there is a day coming up next month, which is our National Day of Mourning, but you may call it Thanksgiving. And people eat lots of turkeys. Well, we get all those turkey feathers. We get all those turkey feet. We get all those parts to the turkeys people don't eat, and we wear them. We immortalize the animals, and we make sure that their life goes on, even though they were sacrificed for food. So when you see us with winter regalia, and you see us having on fur or leather or suede, those are all from the food that people have eaten and have given us what was left.
You mentioned the Croatian tribe. That is a tribe I have not heard of, even having grown up here in Massachusetts, and just intellectually curious about Indigenous. I would, if you could elaborate who the Croatian tribe is and your sister from the tribe, I'm just been intrigued by her clothing today as well. Thank you.
Yes. So Croatan is not originated from Massachusetts. I get my Massachusetts roots from the Ponkapog. They are originally from North Carolina. My North Carolina Croatan great-grandfather married a Potawatomi, and that Potawatomi also married a Croatan, and then another Croatan married a Ponkapog. So we have lots of indigenous blood within our family, as I have married a Mohawk. So our children will have Mohawk as well. So we have different relatives. You'll notice that I've called everyone my sister. This is my sister Teresa, although she's a Blackfoot. We are not related by blood, but we are related by a culture. And she has been in my life since I was 3 years old, so she has earned the right to be my sister. Over here, Whirling Fire is my blood sister when I talked about those 9 children. And she'll tell you a story, but I'm going to tell you the truth now. She is my older sister, no matter what she says. And for us, for Croatan, they're known as the Lost Tribes. So if you want to know more, look up Roberta Estes. She did her doctoral dissertation and then wrote books on the Lost Tribe. And it's one of those tribes that people don't know a lot about. We air from the Roanoke out in North Carolina. It's part of Lumbee Nation now. And many times I go to powwows and people say, there are still Croatans? I'm right here. I am right here. So lots of tribe names that you may not have heard of, very small tribes. But again, we still exist. And you can find out more by looking up Roberta Estes. Other questions?
How much do you and the younger kids know? How much do you speak the language? How much do the younger kids? Do you keep that in the family going?
So you're talking different languages. You're talking Algonquin, and then there are different parts of Algonquin. I do a lot of work with the Nipmucs. I do a lot of work with the Praying Indians, and so it's not all one language. We also have the Iroquois language, and so when I gave my sister her Blackfoot poem, I gave it to her in Blackfoot, and she said, "You do want me to do it in English, right?" So I said, yes, which I thought was really funny when she said that. So we know some of the language, and we are passing it down to the younger people. But, you know, in today's day and age, it is important for them not to just know their history, but to know the English language. And so we make sure that we tell stories, and through stories, our children are learning our culture, and we are still learning our culture. Because again, I'm one of the lost tribes. So there is information coming out all the time about the Lost Tribes. I know a lot about Massachusetts and the Massachusetts Ponkapongs, but again, I am about still being here today. One of the things that happens all the time is people meet me and they want to talk about the past. I'm here. I live this culture today. I want to talk about today. I want to talk about we are still here, we are still being made invisible, and people are still not acknowledging us. So I want to talk about today. And I don't talk a lot about the history. I mean, I'm answering questions today because I want you to feel like you've gotten the information you need. But let's talk about today. Let's talk about the Indigenous people who still live here, who have lived here, and we have felt disrespected for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's now time to acknowledge today. It's time to acknowledge these children who are our future and to carry their culture forward. And we want to do that by having Indigenous Peoples Day, by having ceremonies. We have a powwow almost every weekend. Did you know that? Almost every weekend throughout the year, indoors and out, we have a powwow that are intertribals, that hundreds of tribes get together. We sing, we dance, we drum, we tell stories, we learn about each other. And I invite you, in fact, I challenge you to attend powwows. Start talking to the elders, start learning about our culture, because we are still here, and we need people to know we are still here.
Chief Ladybug is in the house and is here. Give it up for Chief Ladybug. That was fantastic. I'm learning. Again, I've been doing diversity work for 35 years. I am learning new material, new information, new history, all because of what we're doing here at Curry College. So again, I thank my friend so very much for what she's done to support us. We want to hear from Autumn Feather, part of the Blackfoot tribe, and she's now going to give us our prayer. In English.
Both languages. No, I can't.
Read a Canadian Blackfoot prayer. And I'm going to start by saying Oki, which means welcome.
Okay.
Calling Creator, calling the old man, the sun, calling the source of life. We welcome you. We ask for your help on this day. Be kind to us. Show us all that is good and all that is. Gentle in all that is honest. I ask that kindness be shown to our children and to our fathers, mothers, and our grandparents, and to be saved and given a long life, a hope.
Oh, Autumn Feather, thank you so very much. Thank you.
Our message of hope is going to come from someone I've known for a number of years now. We have traveled to India together. I have on an Indian outfit from the country of India. And we have experienced joys and sorrows. I am impressed with her career path, the work that she's doing here in the community. She lives in Milton. She is part of the Episcopal community and has been in a leadership role there for quite some time. She is an elected official as the Milton Town, one of the elected officials of the Milton Town Committee. She's a committee member. And most recently, she was inducted as the president of the Massachusetts Bar Foundation. I believe the first African American, first person of color in that position. A joy, originally from Barbados. Her dad is here, her niece is here as well. She has a message for us. Attorney Angela McConney-Skeppers, come on up.
Greetings, Vice President Shea, Interim Chief Diversity Officer Thomas, and the Indigenous Peoples Day Committee, Curry College faculty, students and friends, and my fellow Milton residents. Let us give thanks to the ancestors of the Massachusetts and Wampanoag, the original inhabitants of this land. Let us offer our respect to those ancestors who may be interred in this land. We are thankful for the heritage of the Mohawk, Cherokee, Blackfoot, Croatian, and all the Native American tribes who lived in North America throughout the generations, long before the Europeans came to settle. It is my honor and privilege to address you with a message of hope this morning. This is an amazing time in our history. A Native American, Deb Haaland, is United States Secretary of the Interior. Secretary Haaland is a member of the Laguna Pueblo tribe and a 35th generation New Mexican. There are now 5 Native representatives in Congress, the first time that a Native American, Native Alaskan, and Native Hawaiian have served at the same time. The celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day has been a long time coming, but in order to understand the present, we must know our past. Why was there ever a Columbus Day? The original reason for Columbus Day has become shrouded in parades and streets painted in stripes of red, white, and green. We have all learned of Christopher Columbus's discovery of the New World, but how do you discover a place when there are already people there? As Dr. Cooper said, President Benjamin Harrison declared the first Columbus Day as a one-time national celebration in 1892 to placate Italian Americans and ease tensions with Italy after that March 14, 1891 lynching in New Orleans. Now, this lynching was the largest single mass lynching in American history. Most of the lynching victims were, as Dr. Cooper said, Italians and Italian Americans, because there was widespread belief that Italian American organized crime was responsible for the killing of the local police chief. This lynching has serious national repercussions. The Italian consul of New Orleans left at his government's direction. Italy cut off relations with the United States. However, as Italian Americans became assimilated into the so-called melting pot of American culture, the real reason behind Columbus Day faded from memory. Because of the focus on Columbus discovering America, which ushered in the catastrophe of colonization, disease, slavery, and death, it was easy to pivot to the original inhabitants, the people permanently wronged. The practice of U.S. cities eschewing Columbus Day to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day began in 1992 in Berkeley, California. And slowly but surely, the wrongs of Indigenous peoples have crept into the national collective consciousness. The condition of Native Americans' lives, living in reservations with limited health care and educational resources, is not optimal. Voting restrictions discriminate against them, prohibiting voting by mail from P.O. boxes, the most common way people on reservations receive their mail. I think of my alma mater, Dartmouth College, which was supposed to be a seminary for Native American students. Samson Occam, Presbyterian minister, scholar, and educator, and one of the first ordained Native American Christian ministers, traveled to England in 1766 to raise money for the new school. When he returned, Occam learned that the school's direction had shifted to white males in violation of the charter. The £9,500 in donations that he raised were the critical foundation for what would become Dartmouth College. However, between 1769 and 1970, Dartmouth graduated only 20 Native students. Dartmouth has committed to increasing the matriculation of Native American students for the past 50 years. And on April 27th of this year, the Dartmouth president restored the papers of Samson Occam to his Mohegan homeland. From June 24th to 29th of this year, Pope Francis traveled to Canada. His trip focused mainly on apologizing for the Catholic Church's role in the Canadian Indian residential school system and reconciliation with the country's Indigenous peoples. Pope Francis apologized for the physical and sexual abuse suffered at the church-run boarding schools, designed to separate families and erase native language and culture. We recall the passing this month of Sacheen Littlefeather, who endured vitriol at the 1973 Oscars, where John Wayne had to be physically restrained by 6 security guards so that he would not attack her. Perhaps Michael Caine said it best, remarking that Marlon Brando let Miss Littlefeather take the booze instead of standing up and doing it himself. I recommend Dick Grant's book, Killers of the Flower Moon. This is the true story of the Osage who lived in Kansas until the 1870s, when the federal government forced them off their sacred land. The Osage were moved to northeastern Oklahoma on a patch of ground that they thought was so worthless no white person would ever bother them there. But oil was discovered beneath the reservation in the 1920s, and the tribe became incredibly wealthy. The federal government deemed that the Osage were incapable of managing their own finances. Any full-blooded Osage had to have a white guardian. Guardians controlled their Osage wards' money for their own benefit. What makes this true story different and so sinister is the configuration of the plot to take the Osage's money by inheritance. This entailed marrying Osage women and plotting to kill the women, in-laws, and other family members while raising children with them. Killers of the Flower Moon is a movie production and will be released next year. Native Americans and African Americans share a peculiar link in history. A stolen land cultivated by a stolen people. What is my history in this American saga? I am a double sojourner in the Americas. My ancestors were ripped from the western coast of Africa. I do not know my family's history or my true name. Then my family immigrated from the Caribbean to the United States. I have adopted all this country's benefits and pains as my own. I am a practicing attorney. I'm especially grateful that I'm able to use my skills in volunteer service. As Carol said, I have been a fellow of the Mass Bar Foundation for over 15 years. The foundation raises funds from lawyers, judges, law firms, and other donors in order to fund legal services organizations to provide civil legal aid to low-income residents across the Commonwealth. I am the foundation's first president of color in its 58-year history. The foundation also awards Legal Intern Fellowship Program scholarships every year, funding law student summer fellowships with our civil legal aid organizations. I hope that some of you young people here in the audience today will be legal intern fellows and members of the Mass Bar Foundation someday. What do I want you to take away from this address today? As you know, our democracy was built on the creation of separate circles. The circle of power, the circle of despair, slavery and dispossession of land, the circle of privilege, and the circle of deprivation. I want you to think of our country and the times we live in. I want you to tell your truth and unlearn history. I want you to practice courageous remembering. Be brave. Our national truth is a painful history. Our truth is the history of the genocide of Native peoples. Our truth is one of colonialism and land grabbing. I hope that you continue to vote, get involved in politics, and run for office. I am now in my second term serving as a town meeting member in Milton. Please know that you can make a difference, but you can make an even bigger difference by collaborating with others, society building, and working with those pushed aside by injustice is never untimely. I always thought that because of my age, I had missed the 60s, where all the great movements happened. But then John Lewis said Emmett Till was our George Floyd. I had arrived. I got my movement. The racial reckoning that took place in our country in the middle of a once-in-a-century epidemic. I had the privilege of leading a bar foundation of dedicated lawyers and judges, already putting our good intentions into action by promoting access to justice. In conclusion, I say to you, there is always a movement. There is always something happening. There is always a wrong to right. And there is always you. So thank you, Curry College community and the Indigenous Peoples Day Committee. I thank you for asking me to speak today, and I thank you for the privilege of your time.
One more round for Attorney Angela McCowney Steppers. Thank you so much. You'll have a chance to talk with her more when you have lunch that's being prepared for you in our dining hall. I want to thank everyone for coming today. Before we bring up our closing speaker, want to particularly thank Naisha in the back. She's a freshman here at Curry College. She registered all of you, welcomed you when you came in. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Rich, our photographer today, and our young interns, my grandchildren, who have been manning the movie video and also the camera, Juliana Farquharson and Gabrielle Farquharson. So give our wonderful volunteers and volunteers who were here earlier, our students, a big round of applause. Thank you so very much. I am happy that this program has taken place. We've danced. We've had a chance to hear beautiful music. We've heard the history. We've heard about what's taking place today. And now it's our chance to move forward and take this message to many, many friends and people. I'm hoping this will not be your last time on this campus. It's a beautiful campus. Drive around. You can see the dormitories, the administrative buildings, etc. You'll have a chance to go into the Student Center if this is your first time. And stay in touch with me also. I want to have an open door policy where you'll have a chance to talk with me, learn more about what's taking place here on campus. Talk to Bob Shea, who is our interim provost and doing an excellent job. Angela Cooper as well, doing a fantastic job here on campus. We have if you are a part of the Curry community, raise your hand. I don't want to miss anybody. All of our Curry folks are here. Kirsten and Nick Rowe is here. Awesome. Very, very wonderful. John is in the back. He's being very quiet and very subdued at this point in time, but he is also back there. Tim Sullivan, part of our public safety, is here as well. So I thank each and every one of our Curry members for coming out today. I thank you so much for coming out today. I hope you will enjoy the rest of your Indigenous Peoples Day. I hope you will stay and have lunch with us at the conclusion of this program. And I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for making this a reality so quickly. So without further ado, my partner in crime, I'm here because of this woman. I met her many years ago at Bentley University when I was connected to that university. Met her through the National Black MBA Association as well, and now she is here at Curry College, and she is the Assistant Vice President of Student Engagement and Diversity. If you want to know anything about student activities here on campus, she is your woman. Jeanette Bunton, come on up. Originally from Montserrat.
Thank you all for being here. As Dr. Cooper said earlier, her greeting from her culture. As Carol just mentioned, my family is from a small island in the Caribbean called Montserrat. We would meet people and say, "Wagwan." That's how we would say. And what is going on here today has been nothing but absolute magic. And Carol Copeland Thomas, you're the reason for that happening. And so very grateful for you as well. Thank you all for being here today. Indigenous people have lived along the coast, on islands, and in the mountains of the Blue Hills for thousands of years. The Massachusetts people, the tribe that made their home in and around Milton, were called the Neponset originally, and they were one of many Algonquin-speaking tribes in this area. Specifically, they have always believed in all things are alive, all things are intelligent, all things are dangerous, but all things are also sacred. In acknowledgement of the past genocide and present injustice perpetuated on all indigenous peoples in the Americas, we stand with the Algonquin Nation of our community, as well as all indigenous people across the nation and the world. American Indians, Alaskan Natives, Native Hawaiians, who have built vibrant and diverse cultures. As an educational institution, it is part of who we are. It is what we must do. We must continue to educate. We must continue to enlighten. But most importantly, we must maintain our commitment to justice, equity, and diversity, especially for those of inclusion of Indigenous people through sustained learning, which always leads to change. Curry College, in my office, right up here, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, we give Carol our full support in making sure that this is not the last program that occurs on this campus. And then in recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day, that this will be the first of many remembrance to commemorate the rich culture and multidimensional history of Indigenous people now and into the future. We are very thankful for Carol and her determination and spirit to champion for this day, along with others who stood by her in ensuring that this is something that would be part of Curry College's history. We must not forget those things and pay recognition to the original stewards of this land in which we work on, in which many sleep on, but we also live and we work in this place as well. I'm thankful for my colleagues and friends and students who came out and showed their support, not just in words, but in actions. A little over a year ago, President Biden spoke, and he proclaimed that this day is Indigenous Peoples Day. He said our country was conceived on a promise of equality and opportunity for all. That promise, despite the extraordinary progress we have made through the years, we still have much, much, much more to do. That is especially true when it comes to upholding the rights and dignity of the Indigenous people, who were here long before colonization of the Americans began. For generations, federal policies systematically sought to assimilate and displace Native people and eradicate Native cultures. Today, we recognize Indigenous resilience and strength, as well as immeasurable positive impact that they have had on our society. To us, this is much more than just a day. It is an intention to change our thinking that we must do to create a new and better part of life for a vision of what we all want, especially here at Curry College. That we want this institution will be committed to educating the whole person and in the journey that we will take to help them to be educated in advancing social and ecological justice. Today and all year long, we come together to recognize the past, the present, and future of all Indigenous communities. To our Indigenous people, thank you for your contributions and knowledge. I've been blessed today by so much information that I'm walking away with. And for those of you who are on social media in any format, I challenge you today to post a picture that was taken today. Share a bit of knowledge with your friends and with your network so we can continue to educate others. Together, we can deepen our understanding and lead change for a more just and sustainable world. I thank you all for being with us today. I hope to see you all back again in our community. And can we all just give a round of applause for Ms. Carol Copeland Thomas. As Carol has said, I'm going to go inside and leave a meal ticket at the front. If you just want to come in there, if you have a name badge, just show them that or just let them know that you are part of this program. And I invite you to break bread together with us inside of the cafeteria. Thank you all for coming. Have a great, great day.